What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Under Review, where we look at all the latest and greatest games for a majority of all the consoles. Now, this week we are looking at the Dark Souls 2D clone in Salt and Sanctuary. Now, we know this is not a brand new title that's just now released for the very first time, but this is the very first time it was released on the Nintendo Switch. So for all of you Souls fans that were looking for something a little different, that has many of the same mechanics that Dark Souls games have perfected, with the challenge that those games gave, we found a very solid substitute. If you could think of all the key elements that made all of From Software's latest titles something special, such as challenges, accomplishment, anger, and outright determination, and fit all of those into a 2D sprite platformer and still maintain those elements, this game delivers. Now, you begin your game with literally nothing to your name. So like Souls games, you design your character, choose a class, and begin on board a ship that is being raided by monsters. You end up surviving the shipwreck and land on a desolate island. The game never does fully flesh out your main objective, even through the dialogue text, and it's the level of mystery that makes this game actually pretty interesting, and wanting you to push forth to find out what is truly going on and what is your motivation. You literally find out detail by detail, reading descriptions, and through NPC interactions within the world. Now, the world of Salt and Sanctuary actually feels much bigger than the map truly is. Yes, the different landscapes and hidden tunnels are all connected, and as you progress, you unlock many shortcuts. Think of it like Dark Souls 1 with the large, interconnected world, and instead of bonfires to return to, there are shrines that you will venture back to and refill your flask and level up your character. So you level up your character throughout the game is again very Souls-like. Instead of gathering souls, you gather salts and other resources from fallen enemies, such as money. And you turn them in to level your character up. And then you use black crystal orbs you get for each level you level up, and you can also find them within the world. And you level up using a spear grid, or a sphere grid, however you want to pronounce it, to unlock nodes that each improve upon your stats. And each checkpoint you encounter in the world are the game's versions of creeds or factions. And unfortunately, the game does not do really a good job of explaining them to you and letting you know that there are a lot of differences or a lot of things that you can do within those creeds. So they're like the factions of Dark Souls. And there are many instances that I found myself struggling with the fighting mechanics and trying to get past some of the early bosses. Very Souls-like. It's a really steep learning curve. You have to learn how the combat works, how your movements work. Constantly dying and having to respawn back at the Sanctuary was a thing that I actually became a little bit of accustomed to early on. And this is the closest you are going to get to a Souls game in any kind of a 2D platformer. The story is actually pretty decent. It's got some mystery to it, even though it didn't really kind of flesh out the story for you. And I don't like how the fact that they really didn't introduce any of the creeds that you can become a part of and kind of give you any kind of a background as to what they are and things that you could do within those creeds. They don't really flesh that out at all. And it works pretty well, and the story actually works at a pretty decent pace. And even though the world still could use some explanation, which I think I talked about before, the enemies are actually vast enough to keep the game feeling fresh as you progress through the story. Not to mention they do get much harder depending on the areas that you go into, much like Dark Souls. So for that, we gave the newly Switch release game Salt and Sanctuary a very solid 8 out of 10. If you like 2D platformers, this is definitely one to look at. If you like Souls games or Souls type games, this is definitely one to look at. It gives you that challenge and gives you that much needed sense of satisfaction, especially once you complete a task or you beat such a particular boss. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, Game on.